imagine this. Your nervous system is like a thermostat. But instead of controlling temperature, it's controlling your emotional survival. So when you were a child, maybe you weren't allowed to feel your feelings. Maybe expressing anger, sadness, or fear got you yelled at, shamed, ignored, or even worse. Well, if that happened, then your body learned that feelings themselves were dangerous. And so that means when somebody pokes at that old alarm system when you're an adult, your reaction can feel way out of proportion to what's happening right now. And so this is what it looks like in real life. One way the emotional dysregulation can show up is in how you handle conflict. Conflict is a part of life, but if you have emotional dysregulation, it is extremely difficult to navigate. So it might be that if feelings weren't safe in childhood, then you suppress how you really feel, and you're always showing up with your family members, your close friends, your significant other in a way that makes them happy, which is the fawn trauma response. The fawn trauma response is a hybrid response. It's two things at the same time. It's freeze how you really feel and socially engage in a way that makes other people happy or comfortable, because if they're happy and comfortable, they're going to be okay with you. You'll have that connection, and therefore you will feel safe. Now, what tends to happen is you're suppressing how you really feel for a very long time. And if you're dealing with daily stressors and you're constantly suppressing, eventually your body can only hold it down for so long before something happens, and it doesn't even have to be something huge. It could be just the last poking that somebody does that causes everything you've been suppressing to come up. And so you react extremely strong, and it's out of par with the current situation that's happening. And the reason is because you have so much unhealed, suppressed pain, suppressed emotions. When something finally opens the door, it's like a closet that's been stuffed, that you open the door and everything comes piling out. That's what happens as well with somebody that has been suppressing for so long. The reason behind those strong reactions, which by the way, once you have them and you start coming down back to the current reality, your body realizes how you reacted, and you can go into a lot of shame and a lot of blame, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why did I react this strongly? In fact, I get clients sometimes that tell me, I chose to not have children, or I chose to stay out of relationships because I could feel this thing inside of me that sometimes I feel like I can't control. A switch goes off and I react so strongly that it scares me. The reason the body goes into that is because you had a thwarted fight response in childhood. As children, it is normal to get upset. If somebody says no to you, it's normal to cry. 3-year-olds are going to have a tantrum. Right? If they're expected anything different, that's expecting the impossible. But if your feelings, when you were having those normal experiences and your body was beginning to learn how to be with strong emotion, if you were shamed and blamed and you weren't allowed to express dislike or allowed to say no, and it was met with shame, then your body pairs feeling upset, expressing dislike to somebody, sharing a perspective that the other person doesn't share as danger. And it's suppressing how you really feel until finally it can't anymore. And then because you've never been allowed to express yourself in a grounded way, your body literally shifts gears with your nervous system from fawning to fight. And that fight energy comes up, you're not present with it. And that's where, when you come out of it, that's where, when you begin to be present with how you reacted, that's where the shame is. But again, that comes from never experiencing in childhood healthy self-protection, being allowed to express dislike, being allowed to share a different opinion, and experiencing safety afterward. Another way you might notice this dysregulation is if something someone does wakes up what it was like for you to be ignored as a child, if you experienced childhood neglect. So when you're a child and you're ignored, it feels like your very existence is on the line. If no one's there to take care of you when you need, not want, you need and deserve to be taken care of properly, the amount of pain, fear, existential threat that a child experiences is overwhelming. And so let's say as an adult, you send a text to your significant other or one of your children, and for whatever reason, they don't respond quickly. That can kick on this I'm being ignored unconsciously. And that I'm being ignored is attached still to the fear, pain, and existential threat that you haven't healed from childhood. And all of a sudden, that can kick on an extremely strong emotional reaction coming from those feelings that have been suppressed, and it might kick on, again, some fight energy where you get extremely angry. You might even realize like a part of you may even be witnessing you exploding at your children or exploding at your significant other and saying something like, why am I so mad? But as you're saying this and you're hearing this thought of why am I acting like this, it's like you can't stop it. Because when you go into a trauma response, that area of the brain has the ability to turn off your prefrontal cortex, which is where all of your thinking, your reasoning, your logic is. And so while you're in that trauma response, your authentic self is in the back seat. It's not until the activation settles and then you come back online and you're like, what did I do? I want to give one more example of emotional dysregulation. Those other two were examples of attacking someone else, but the reverse can happen as well. And what I mean by that is you get dysregulated and you attack self. So instead of going into fight energy, oftentimes that causes you to go into freeze or fawn energy, or sometimes you feel like a ping pong ball flinging back and forth between fight and freeze. So remember, criticism is something if you experienced in childhood when you were feeling your feelings, and criticism makes you feel disconnected from your caregivers. If you feel disconnected from your caregivers, that's experienced as threat in your nervous system. And if you weren't co-regulated and made to feel like, okay, everything's okay, you're safe, and you weren't supported in your strong emotion, there was no return to safety. And so in the present, if a coworker or a boss, even if they're well-meaning, and they give you this constructive criticism, that can wake up the threat in your body. And you might wind up attacking self, which could cause you to go into dissociation. You don't feel safe to be in your body. You don't feel safe to be you. You're numb, you're disconnected, and then you shut down and you're in freeze. Handling work situations with a dysregulated nervous system can be absolutely overwhelming with somebody with complex PTSD. Now, if any of these scenarios resonate or hit home, I want you to understand that none of these things are a sign that you are fundamentally flawed. If you grew up in neglect, if you grew up with chaos or alcoholic parents, then your nervous system learned to survive just to keep you alive. And so emotional dysregulation is really your body's way of trying to protect you from a past that's no longer present. And when your system is triggered, it reacts bigger than the present problem because your nervous system hasn't realized that. It hasn't realized that you survived, that you grew up, and things are different. And so understanding this is the first step towards self-compassion. We cannot begin healing from a place of anger towards our body or rejection of the protection that it's trying to give us, or blaming and shaming. That's the very breeding ground that created the traumas in the first place. We have to step into a place of self-compassion so that we can support our nervous system. And what we're basically doing is stepping in as the adult to co-regulate our dysregulated nervous system. This is what we should have had in childhood. We didn't get it, but we can begin giving it to ourselves now. It begins with being connected to self, feeling your inner strength, your agency, your authenticity. As you build that, then you start to notice the safety in relationships outside of self as well. It is hard work. It does take support, so make sure you give yourself the support you need. And the most I can say now is don't give up. Somebody that inspires me a lot is my younger brother. At one time in his life, he was physically overweight and he had really bad habits. And now he's a bodybuilder. Did it happen overnight? No. Was it easy? No. but his habits are amazing and he loves who he is. Last night I texted him, and what was he doing? He was meal prepping for the week. He was sharing some awesome recipes that he had, and he loves the habits that he's built. But they took time, they took patience, consistency, and dedication. And yet he's loving the results. You can experience that with your nervous system as well if you're willing to develop those same qualities as well. So don't give up, because it is absolutely amazing when you step out of your protective self and into your authentic self.